Okay, hello kids. Well, your unit test is coming up and I thought I'd revise to be verbs, to have verbs and to do verbs. Today we'll do something called subject-verb agreement. Okay, fine. So just look at what I've mentioned on the board. Is and am. Okay, when you use them, okay, we're talking about the present tense and is and am, kids. Okay, both these verbs are singular forms of the verb. Okay, and are is the plural form of the verb. Like usually we associate singular and plural with nouns. So with nouns it's like, for example, let's say dog is singular. Okay, so the plural of dog is what? Dogs. Car is singular, the plural of car is what? Cars. Let's say city is singular, the plural of city is what? C-I-T-I-E-S. So these are all nouns. So like nouns, verbs too have two forms, the singular form as well as the plural form. So let's see how it works. Okay, so I will use now subject pronouns like I, you, and he, she, and it. Okay, these are all what? Singular subject pronouns. Now I will use plural subject pronouns, we, you, and they. Okay, so let's see how it works. So let's say I, with I you have to use what? Am. I am a good student. Okay, with you, the singular you, subject pronoun you will use are. You are a good student. Okay, and with he, she, what will you use? You will use is. He or she is a good student, full stop. With it, again we will use is. Okay, it is an expensive bag, full stop. Okay, in fact I've done a video for class 5 students. Okay, this is class 5, I'm sorry. This is class 5. So kids, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we, okay, with we again, what will you use? Will you use is, am, or are? With we, you will use are. We are good students, full stop. You are good students, full stop. And they are good students, full stop. This sign in English is called what? Ditto. What does it mean? It means same as above. Okay, so what is it that you have noticed, kids? Okay, with I you will use am. Okay, what is the tense of this sentence? Simple present. With so with I you will use am. With all the other subject pronouns you will use are when you're talking about the present tense. But with third person singular, kids, with third person singular, he, she, and it, you will use what? You will use is. Okay, so just remember that. So I have also sent you the verb 1, verb 2, verb 3, the list of the different verb forms. So is and am, okay, comes this thing under verb 1. Okay, so we use all these verbs that come under verb 1 to make the present tense, to make the present tense. And all the words that come under verb 2, we use all these verbs to make the past tense. Okay, okay, let's keep it at that. Let's not bother about verb 3 right now. Okay, just focus on verb 1 and verb 2. So if verb 1 is and am, verb 2 will become was. If verb 1 is are, verb 2 is were. Let's focus on this as of now. Okay, so do remember this. Okay, fine. So with I you will use am. Again I'm repeating myself. And with all the other subject pronouns, what will you use? You will use are, except for third person singular, you will use is. And all these sentences are in the present tense. All these sentences are in the present tense. Okay, so now let's look at what. Okay, so another thing I wanted to tell you. So let's say, okay, fine. So let's say, what exactly do I mean? Okay, kids, I did subject verb agreement with you last year, so I'm sure you remember things. So let's say Aditya, okay, is one person. Okay, so the subject out here is singular. That's why you will use the singular form of the verb. Now, what will you use? If you're talking about the present tense, will you use is, am or are? You will use is. You can't say, okay, Aditya is a good student. Subject is singular. You have to use the singular form of the verb. And here, I cannot use am because am is used with what? I. The subject pronoun first person singular, I. Okay, but here it is Aditya. So Aditya is a good student. So remember, first person, second person and third person. By first person is the one who's speaking, second person is the one who's spoken to, and third person is the person or the thing that is being spoken about. Okay, so let's say Aditya is a good student. So let's say Aditya and Rohit, okay, are good students. Here, which is the subject? The sentence is about whom? This sentence is about Aditya and Rohit. So there are two individuals involved here. Okay, so that's why if can I use am here? No, I cannot use am. Okay, can I use is here? No, I cannot use is. Why? Because the subject is plural. So if the subject is plural, I have to use the plural form of the verb, and in this case, I will use are. Aditya and Rohit are good students. Okay, subject verb agreement, I will do it not in detail, but I will explain it to you properly, probably in another session. But just understand how does subject verb agreement work with be verbs, do verbs and have verbs, and that's exactly what we are doing right now. Okay, fine. So let's look at was and were. Okay, so was, when you use was, means you're talking about the past tense and it is the singular form of the verb. If you use were, again you're talking about what tense? You're talking about the past tense, okay, and this is the plural form of the verb. Okay, so under verb 2 you have what? Was and were. So remember, let me repeat myself, all these verbs that you see under verb 2, okay, you will use all these verbs to form a sentence, to write a sentence in the past tense. If you want to be more specific, we use it to form the simple past. Okay, so let's keep it at that as of now. So let's see how it works. So let's say I am a teacher right now. I teach in Vikas Bharati school. I am from Guthal. So when I was in school, I was a good student. So I was a good student. You were a good student. So let's say he or she was a good student. Let's say these are what pronouns? Singular pronouns, remember that. So we were good students. You were good students and they were good students, full stop. So this is how it works. So subject out here is I. Remember, we are talking about the past tense. We are not talking about the present tense anymore. So with I, you will have to use was. So subject is singular. You will have to use the singular form of the verb. This is the singular form of the verb. Here there's an exception to the rule. Though you out here is second person singular, kids. But with you, you will have to use verb. Okay. So this is the exception to the rule. Okay. With he, she, and even with it. So let's say it was an, let's say it was an entertaining movie. So with he, she and it, again you will use the singular form of the verb. Okay, with we you will use, we the subject is plural. First person plural, you will use the plural form of the verb. With you second person plural, you will use the plural form of the verb. And with third person plural, you will use the plural form of the verb. So please do remember that. Okay, fine. So let's move on, kids, now. Okay, I'm going to remove this from the board. Okay, so now let's look at, okay, so likewise, so let's say, okay, Ashoka was a great king, full stop. Okay, now the subject is singular. Okay, and I'm talking about the past. That's why I've used was. And was is the singular form of the verb. Okay, and the subject is singular. Subject is singular. That's why I've used the singular form of the verb. Okay, so let's say Ashoka and Chandra Gupta Maurya were great kings. So now you first, what do you have to do? You have to figure out the subject. Now if you look at this sentence number 2, Ashoka and Chandragupta Maurya were great kings. Okay, who is being spoken of or who is being spoken about? Ashoka and Chandragupta Maurya. So in this particular sentence is talking about two kings. Okay, kings who lived and ruled India once upon a time in the past. That's why I've used were out here. Subject is plural. That's why I've used the plural form of the verb. Okay, so just do remember that. Okay, so let's move on, kids. So let's look at now has, have and had. Okay, so now has, okay, again present tense, and have to is what? Present tense. Present tense. So has is the singular form of the verb and have is the plural form of the verb. Okay, and the past tense of has and have is what? Had, as you can see on the board. So let's see how it works. So let's say I have a lot of work. I have a lot of work to finish. To finish. Full stop. Okay. First person singular, kids. Then you have a lot of work to finish. Full stop. And then he or she has a lot of work. Full stop. Let's keep it at this. Okay, so let's say it has, so let's say I'm talking about a dog, my dog Ronnie. It has lovely, brown fur, full stop. Lovely brown adjectives. So let's not talk about, okay, fine. These are adjectives. Fur is a noun. Okay, so let's say now we'll talk about first person plural. We have a lot of work, full stop. You have a lot of work, full stop. and let's say they have a lot of work, full stop. Okay, so now from these examples, okay, though I is the singular form of I is the singular subject, first person singular, but with I we've used the plural form of the verb. This is an, what is this? This is an exception to the rule. So if the rule says that if the subject is singular, you will have to use the singular form of the verb. If the subject is plural, you will have to use the plural form of the verb. But in English, kids, there are always exceptions to rules. Okay, so you've got to be careful of that. Okay, not only this U2 is second person singular, so this too is what? An exception to the rule. Okay, so just understand it in a very, very simple way. With has and have, how does it work? With all the subject pronouns, you will use the plural form of the verb, except for third person singular. Okay, you will use has. Means with all the subject pronouns, or to put it another way, with all the subject pronouns, you will use have, except for third person singular, you will use has. Okay, so and the past, and with past, okay, you needn't really bother about subject verb agreement rules and all that. It's very, very simple. With past, with if you want to, and all, okay, fine. With past, okay, so let's say I had a lot of work to finish. Let's say you had a lot of work to finish. He, she had a lot of work. It had lovely brown fur. We had a lot of work. You had a lot of work. They had a lot of work. Okay, so if you're talking about if you're using had, there's no change as such. With all the subject pronouns, okay, you can use had. And even if you are using a singular noun, you can use had. Even with plural nouns, you can use had, not a problem. Okay, so let's say, okay, so let's say again, I'll give you examples. So let's say Rishabh has a good voice. We're talking about, so since you use has, so this sentence is in the present tense. If you want to be more particular, kids, this sentence is in the simple present tense. So Rishabh has a good voice. Okay, so let's say, so since the subject out here is singular, we're talking about one individual, that's why you've used the singular form of the verb. Okay, and Rishabh is what? Third person singular. Because we are talking about Rishabh, in place of the proper noun Rishabh, can I use he? Rather than say Rishabh has a good voice, can I say he has a good voice? Yes, I can say he has a good voice. So Rishabh is third person singular. So with third person singular, kids, I've already told you, you have to use the singular form of the verb. Okay, so Rishabh, let's say, and let's say who else is there? Rishabh, Aditya, Rohit, Samsher. Okay, let's say Rishabh and Samsher have good voices. V-O-I-C-E-S. So how does it work? So now if you look at this particular sentence number 2, kids, okay, first of all you have to figure out the subject. Who is this sentence about? The sentence is about Rishabh and Samsher. Okay, so subject is Rishabh and Samsher. There are two individuals. This individual one, individual, this is the other individual. Okay, so there are basically two boys here or two subjects here. That's why you will use the plural form of the verb, because the subject is plural. I'm talking about two boys. That's why you'll have to use have. So Rishabh and Samsher have good voices. Okay, so just do remember that. Okay, now let's move on to do, does and did. Okay, so let's see how it works. So let's say does, okay, again present tense. Okay, does is the singular form of the verb, and Do again, present tense. Do is the plural form of the verb. Okay, so if you look at verb 1, verb 2, this particular list, verb forms, verb 1, verb 2, verb 3, do is what? The plural form of the verb. If I add an es here, then it becomes singular. Okay, so the past tense of do or does is what? Did. And this is the past participle form. You needn't bother about that right now. Okay, so let's see how it works with subject pronouns. So let's say I do my work regularly. So let's say you do your work regularly, but he or she, let's say, he or she does his or her work regularly. So remember, here we are talking about singular subject pronouns. This is I is what? First person singular. You is what? Second person singular. And he and she, third person singular. Let's talk about plural. How does it work? Let's see. Okay, look at first person. Okay, let's say we do our work regularly. Okay, let's say you. Okay, second person plural. You do your work regularly, and they do their work regularly. Okay, so now what do we notice here? Okay, now let's keep it simple again. Out here too, though do is the plural form of the verb, kids. Again, do is the plural form of the verb. Okay, so though the subject out here is singular, first person singular, second person singular, but I've used the plural form of the verbs. So this and this, okay, these two are exceptions to the rule. What do I mean by exceptions to the rule? Means they don't follow the rule. Okay, so just don't get confused with do and does. All that I want you to remember, kids, is with all the subject pronouns you will use what? Do, except for third person singular. I've left it, I've not used the third person singular pronoun it as of now, so forget about it. Okay, so what is it that I want you to remember? With all the subject pronouns, if you're talking about do and does, you will use what? You will do, except for third person singular, you will use what? You will use does. Okay, so do remember that. Now what is the past tense form of do and does? The past tense form is what? Past tense is did. How does it work with did? With did, it's very, very simple. You needn't bother, because did, you can use did with all the subject pronouns, not a problem at all. So let's see how it works. I'll write it for you on the board so that it becomes simpler. Okay, I'll remove this, I'll remove this, I'll remove this. Okay, so let's say so when I was a student, I did my work regularly. Okay, when he was so when you were a student, I'm sure you did your work regularly. Okay, he did his work regularly. She did her work regularly. Okay, we did our work regularly. You did your work regularly, and they did their work regularly. And remember what I told you about the tense as well. So do and does, when you use do and does as the main verb, remember you're talking about the present tense. And when you use did as the main verb, yeah, you can use did as the main verb, but remember do and does, we use it for what? We use it to make in negative sentences and interrogative sentences as well. I've already covered this. Okay, so do remember this, and let's see how it works with singular nouns and plural nouns quickly. Okay, so let's say, and I'll talk about do and does. So let's say Aditya and Rohit. Okay, so now the subject out here is plural. So Aditya, so that's why I have to use now the plural form of the verb. Aditya and Rohit do their work properly, or let's say carefully. So let's say, because the subject out here is plural, that's why I've used the plural form of the verb. So do remember that? So last one, Aditya. Now here the subject is singular, kids. We're just talking about one individual, one student. So Aditya does his work, let's say, honestly. Okay? So here, since the subject is singular, we've used the singular form of the verb. Okay? So I want you to be comfortable with the subject pronouns. Okay, and how to use the be verbs with them, the do verbs with them, the have verbs with them. It just takes a little bit of practice, kids, and there is plenty of matter available on the net. Okay, so after you just watch this video, you just surf the net and try and understand things yourself as well. Okay, so please do that. Take that initiative. Okay, you need to also develop good study habits. Okay, so remember that. And I also want you to know how to use be verbs, have verbs and do verbs with singular and plural nouns as well. Okay, that is it for now, kids. And in the next class, I will teach you how to write paragraphs, because paragraph writing too is in your unit test. Bye as of now. Bye for now.